Hello, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for the welcome. My name is Andrea Hamas, and indeed I work in the European Commission in the area of DG Connect, in the unit that deals with digitizing European industry as a main strategy. And within that, our focus is on how digital innovation hubs can help in actually making that digital transformation happen on the ground, how to help SMEs in particular really benefit from all these possibilities. Why? I wanted to start with the rationale, and I don't need to really express it here in this context because you're more than familiar with it, but just a few interesting numbers from Roland Berger and McKinsey. We see that the digital transformation to companies and to European industry can bring huge benefits. We see a number of industries that are at the forefront or some maybe followers, and the last type of sectors. If they were to implement digital transformation within their companies, European industry could gain enormous benefits, as much as 250 billion additional value to the European industry. We also see that those companies that have actually used digital transformation within their products, services, or business models have been able to create greater value for their own company or for their own stakeholders. I have an example here, for example, from the logistics value chain, how much that can add to the benefit of those companies that engage in the digital transformation. What we also see, and that's the main focus of this idea of digital innovation hubs, is that SMEs are at the backbone of European industry. I'm talking to people in Spain, that's certainly the case, but all over Europe. Over 99% of European companies are small and medium-sized enterprises. They are the ones that create the most jobs in Europe. They are the ones that employ over 90 million people. There's almost about 24 million SMEs in Europe. So we need to be able to help them so that they can remain competitive in the fierce competition with, for example, other areas of the world which are also trying to benefit from this digital transformation. What we see at European level, however, is that there is a huge variety of different level of development. Some countries are at the forefront of digital, integrating digital technologies in their companies. Some are a bit lagging behind. But what we see also is a big difference between the different sectors. Some industries are much more at the forefront of integrating digital, where there's, for example, construction or other industries that are still just trying to get familiar with how to do it. We also see a big difference between companies, and hence the focus on SMEs that are still at the lower end of integrating digital technologies. So what we have done at European level, and you probably know that there's a big strategy, so-called the Digitizing European Industry strategy, which was put forward in 2016, basically understanding that many European member states already have such a strategy on the ground, and we're trying to bring all this together to be able to discuss with one another so that we could create really a European digital industry hub that can move forward. Some of the main pillars of this strategy are also bringing the different member states together in the area of, for example, digital platforms, in the area of standardization, in the area of creating the necessary legislative background for that, or, for example, understanding what are the necessary skill sets for companies to be able to benefit from digital. I'm sorry, maybe I'm covering the slide. What we have also identified is an important pillar of this strategy is so-called digital innovation hubs, the kind of one-stop shops, as Maite was saying, that would help bring all these possibilities to the companies so they could experiment with it. And I have here a definition. A one-stop shop that can allow companies to go in to a physical place, understand what digital technologies can do for their own processes, for their own products, and pilot and experiment with this. So they would already have a better understanding where to invest, so we can lower the investment risk. And also, within the same set of organizations, sometimes it's not one single organization, but within the competencies within that set of organizations, they would also be able to create the necessary business plan, to be able to attract investors, to be able to get the right training, to be able to engage in an existing ecosystem so they could further grow their companies. There's quite another number of examples in this area. But what I also have is yet another slide, a bit more detailed, borrowed from TNO, to understand what kind of services do we mean by the services that digital innovation hubs deliver. Certainly a set of technological services, a number of so-called ecosystem services, but also a number of business services, as I have just explained. What we have seen since the last 2 years is that along the different European regions and the digital and the research organizations, competence centers, and already organizations that were working on technology transfer, many of them have identified themselves as digital innovation hubs. So what we have done is to be able to map what really exists at European level. We have created a catalog. And for those organizations that would like to be in this catalog, they have to fulfill a number of criteria. They should be part of a regional ecosystem, so we know that actually they are somehow fitting into the strategy of that region that focuses on the most important competitive advantage of that region. There should be a not-for-profit oriented set of organizations physically present in that region. And they should be able to offer the kind of services I have just explained and have at least already 3 clients that they can demonstrate that they have worked with. Based on this, we now have a map of these digital innovation hubs in Europe. So we counted over 200 digital innovation hubs in all across Europe. Certainly there are some white spots, so we're working on those. But we have now a good understanding where these are, and we will be working with them to create sort of like a community and collaboration between them. As I said, we work with a few with those regions where they don't have innovation hubs yet, predominantly Central and Eastern European countries. So we have a number of initiatives that would help them identify what are the appropriate governance or business structures, business models, financing models to set them up. So we're working a lot with the EU 13 countries. We're finishing a project now, and we will start a new one as we speak. And we will also have a number of open calls of funding to work with digital innovation hubs to do the kind of experimentation that Maite mentioned with SMEs on the ground. What we actually use these hubs, once you have it on the ground in your region, embedded in the regional ecosystem, we would really like to turn them into the support of SMEs. And how do we do that? I wanted to mention here 3 main levels that the European Commission is already helping SMEs on the ground with, and see how the digital innovation hubs can really help. At the level of company, what we see is that, of course, a hub could be really there to mentor companies, to be able to experiment with the technology, to be able to write their business plan, to understand what would be their the kind of revenue model for that new product, to bring the product to the market, help them access to finance. We also see the role of digital innovation hubs in the context of innovation ecosystem, how to help a certain set of maybe sector or a certain group of companies or clusters, or either through a technological focus, because we can help you get the expertise in, for example, artificial intelligence, or through a sector, because we can help, for example, through a set of hubs, strengthen one industrial sector, or for example, we were discussing today, I don't know, in agriculture, and also help certain regions. Digital innovation hubs also help market, bring SMEs to the market, help them cross-fertilize with one another, create new value chains. And this is also helped by actually the different collaboration networks of hubs. So I have some concrete examples for this. On a company level, as I said, if digital innovation hubs engage, for example, in European projects where they give further funding to SMEs to experiment, we've had some very good examples on this. 500 companies have somehow benefited from the services of these hubs in European companies. And we've selected, for example, in a recent conference, a company like best early stage innovation. So we bring companies and their innovative solutions to a step where they can actually go forward and develop it further to go to market. We also have a number of open calls for this cascading funding that SMEs can all the time just inform themselves about and apply for these open calls, these cascading funds, and work tightly together with the Digital Innovation Hub to carry out their experiment. When I say we work on an ecosystem, innovation ecosystem level, as mentioned already, there is an initiative for ICT for manufacturing SMEs. We work with a set of hubs in the area of agriculture, but also on certain technology types. So that picture I took from the photonics type of projects that we're funding. So there's a number of ways how these digital innovation hubs can work together and create impact in those ecosystems that they focus on. And finally, at the market level, we see a huge benefit for digital innovation hubs to collaborate with one another, certainly focusing predominantly for companies in their own territories. But by working together, and I took again here some of the most important rationales from TNO identified why digital innovation hubs would want to work with another one from another member state. They can export or import expertise. They will be able to help their companies internationalize. They will be able to just get the missing, for example, access to technology from another hub so that they can help their companies on the ground, or they help their own companies go, for example, to other markets. They can engage in EU-wide value chains between different regions and so on. And to be able to facilitate that, we have two new initiatives starting. One of them will look at and Digital Innovation Hubs network focusing specifically on artificial intelligence. It's something that the European Parliament is keen in, and they're financing this. They will look at structured collaboration between 30 digital innovation hubs across the EU, finally arriving to some kind of a cooperation agreement. And we also have a new project starting for the collaboration between hubs all over Europe, all kinds of digital innovation hubs developing a set of tools for collaboration, and they're also focusing on trying to arrive to some kind of memorandum of understanding. DIH.EU is actually represented in the room. So this is what we have on the ground. We've been using all kinds of policy means, funding possibilities, exchange of expertise, all kinds of events, a number of different support activities for the digital innovation hubs right now. When we're going to look at the future, as you know, European Commission has put forward a proposal for the new long-term multi-annual financial framework program. And what we have also said there is that we believe that digital innovation hubs will remain a very important tool, and we would like to secure some European funding for those. And so this picture shows you the kind of possible alternative and complementary funding mechanisms that will allow us to support hubs on the ground. On the one side, certainly member states, regions will need to be able to set up their own hubs. We will not have the European financing possibilities to actually fund every single region or every possible area in Europe to be able to actually set up the hub. So for that, we believe at the bottom of the slide that still national, regional, or European regional development funds will still be there to be able to use those to set up the basic infrastructure and services at the regional level. We will, however, have possibilities to fund the digital innovation hubs that will help the more innovative companies to actually try and prototype the innovations. And this is where we will use something that we currently have under Horizon 2020, the so-called Horizon Europe program will continue to offer this kind of experimentation possibilities to innovative companies. What is new, and it's completely new, we never had a program like this before. For the first time ever, the Commission put forward a proposal for a Digital Europe program. And this is, if you wish, it's like an industrial policy program for helping European industry benefit from the digital technologies and create the necessary capabilities or capacity in Europe for European economy and society. This program tries to set up, it was proposed with a budget of 9 billion euros. We'll see after the final negotiations what finally we will have as a means to work with. But it will create the right capacity in Europe for artificial intelligence, high-performance computing, cybersecurity, and advanced digital skills, as well as try to create the basis for digitizing public administrations. And what it does in this program, it foresees that digital innovation hubs will play a key role in rolling these capacities out to companies on the ground. So I'm not talking now about those necessarily innovative companies that would do the innovative experiments, but talking about the rest of the SMEs on the ground who should be able to go and benefit from the possibilities of what digital technologies can offer. So we will be working even more with digital hubs on the ground to be able to offer these capabilities, access to the competence and excellence centers in AI, HPC, and cyber, and help companies to benefit from training. And the hubs will have a major role in bringing these capabilities to their own territories and spread it among the companies to be able to manage, for example, funds to give the training to the companies, but also eventually to public administrations. If you read the proposal for the regulation, it's a wide set of, let's say, functionalities for hubs to cover. We also have put forward another program as a possibility to help SMEs on the ground to find access to private financing. InvestEU will look at two types of funding that are relevant for us. In this context, on the one hand, equity, so for more the ICT type of companies, and some also in forms of loans and other type of bank-related products, which will look at specifically SMEs, how to help them go to market. And we see that digital innovation hubs will have a role to also help companies access to these financing possibilities. And this picture just shows the overall budget for this Digital Europe program, which we believe will be an important step for Europe to remain competitive and create the necessary capacities in those strategic technological fields. And basically an overview of how we see the role of hubs within this program, serving both the SMEs, mid-caps, and also public administrations having access to those capabilities. So I believe that the role of hubs indeed will remain important, if not becomes even more important. We believe that we now have quite a lot of possibilities from the supply end to help companies to go there and experiment, or then to go and transform their businesses, their products. And we're looking at also now how companies can find these hubs. So we're looking at how the demand side could also be now further increased so that all the companies can benefit from it. So I wanted to thank you for your attention, and I'm still here for the rest of the session to answer questions. Thank you very much.